Okay, good morning, dear friends. Let's jump right in. We have to move through history a little bit in order to appreciate the amazing idea that comes from the parsha. And this is all to do with Purim. I know it's hard to believe, but Purim appears somehow located in the parsha according to the Midrash on Megillat Esther. How does Purim play out on this story of Yaakov and Esav? How do these two individuals and their meeting and their current struggle and battle have to do with the rest of history, especially when it comes to the story of Purim? Although we're not near Purim, we have to get through Chanukah first in order to get to Purim. It still applies, especially today, as we're going to see. So we know that one of the things that Yaakov did to placate his brother Esav, in order to calm him down so that he wouldn't attack and he wouldn't kill him, was to buy him lots and lots of gifts, to pray to Hashem for his salvation from the hand of his brother Esav, and to prepare for war. But there's something else he did which we kind of always skip over, and I am not sure why, but this is probably the most important thing that he did. We are told that as Yaakov was approaching Esav, he went ahead of his family. He took pole position, as they say, and he went to protect them, and he bowed down. He bowed himself down 7 times, Sheva Pa'amim, until he reached his brother. The Midrash tells us, the rabbis tell us, this bowing down had the biggest effect, showing this humility. It's going to be a lot more than that. When it comes to dealing with Esav, when it comes to him, he was able to really break down the 7 barriers that Esav had put around himself. I'm sure it's not a coincidence. I've not read or heard anywhere of the connection, but I'm going to assume there is a connection between these 7 times that he bows down and the 7 times that the Jewish people, or parts of the Jewish, the Kohanim, with the shofrot, marched around the walls of Jericho, of Jericho. When they marched around, they broke down those walls. It took 7 circuits they had to do. Those 7 circuits are represented sometimes at a chuppah, when we march, when the Kala, according to some minhagim, marches around 7 times to break down and build new walls around the Chatan. And also the 7 circuits that we do on Hoshana Rabbah. I'm sure they were connected, but I want to talk about the bowing down. Right after this bowing down, that's when Esav's compassion towards his brother Yaakov was really lifted up, and that's when he fell on him and he kissed him and they wept together. So this bowing down of Yaakov Avinu towards his brother Esav was the clincher. It was the bit that really broke down the forces of evil that Esav had surrounded himself with on this approach towards Yaakov and his family. The Midrash says this bowing down of Yaakov towards Esav is connected to a future bowing down of the descendants of Yaakov and the descendants of Esav. What was this? So we know, during the Purim story, we know that Mordechai was rebelling against the command of the king. Everybody was commanded to bow down to Haman. And this was a law of the land that, obviously quite understandably, Haman, the Rasha, had created in the land in his day. And so everyone bowed down to Haman except Mordechai. Mordechai absolutely refused to bow down. We're not told anything about the interaction between them. All we know is that Mordechai said, no, I'm not bowing down, and he was the only Jew that didn't bow down. And we know that that one act infuriated Haman so much that because of it, he said, I'm going to kill you. And then he said, you know what? Not just you're going to kill all the Rabbanim. And then he said, not just all the Rabbanim, I'm going to kill all the Jews throughout the entire world that I'm in control of. It was this one act of not bowing down that elicited this severe reaction of Haman. The Midrash tells us the conversation between these two people. They say, actually, Haman tried to talk Yaakov into bowing down, and he said, Yaakov Avinu, Haman tried to talk to Mordechai and said, Mordechai, we have a tradition, a Masorah, that you Jewish people bow down to us, the children of Esav. Why is that? Because your great-great-great-great-grandfather Yaakov Avinu bowed down 7 times to my great-great-great-great-grandfather Esav. That is the rationale that Haman used to talk Mordechai into bowing down to him. Mordechai gives an unbelievably important answer to this very good challenge from Haman. And Mordechai says, yes, it's true that my great-great-grandfather Yaakov bowed down to your great-great-great-great-grandfather Esav, but I'm not bowing down to you. Because that original bowing down of 7 times occurred before the birth of Binyamin. You see, once Binyamin was born, that did not apply anymore. He would not have bowed down to Esav had Binyamin been born. Yaakov bowed down to Esav, but Yisrael, that was a name given to him after, that name and the power of that name would not allow him to bow down, because Yisrael, as opposed to Yaakov, represents a higher spiritual level of name that represents all the Shvatim. And Binyamin was not born yet. He was going to be born. Once he was born, he becomes Yisrael, he would never have bowed down. And this is what Mordechai told Esav. Why is Mordechai bringing this argument? It's a good argument, but why him specifically at this point? Because you have to remember that Mordechai was a direct descendant of Shaul HaMelech, of King Saul, who came from Shevet Binyamin. So he's saying, you're right. My ancestor Yaakov did, but once my direct lineage was ignited with the birth of Binyamin, that's it. There's no more bowing down. We are not going to bow down to the evil that is Esav, especially to the evil that is Amalek. That we do not bow down to. We have no interest in that. And this battle between Yaakov and Esav, although we said it wasn't just a momentary battle between them and struggle between them, we know that it's going to play out through future generations. And so, Yaakov Avinu's great descendant Mordechai, via his son Binyamin, was now going to continue the battle between Yaakov and Esav by not bowing down to the descendant of Esav via Amalek, via Agag. And Agag was the one who Shaul had to fight and deal with, and didn't deal with him completely. So Mordechai was just continuing a direct tradition that he received from his great-great-grandfather Binyamin. And you know what? Give him credit. Haman was following a direct tradition from his great ancestor, Agag, the king of Amalek, and Amalek himself and Esav. So we see battles and wars happening today. We never, as Jewish people, see them in isolation. They are always, especially now in the pre-Messianic era, they are always connected to previous battles that happened before. There's always some connection between these original fights and the ones we are dealing with right now. Make no mistake, my dear friends, what we're seeing in Eretz Yisrael right now, when it comes to the Bnei Yishmael, when it comes to the Bnei Esav and Edom, this is all founded in the Pasha. You're not going to understand a single battle that is occurring right now, especially in the Middle East, actually any battle, but really the ones in the Middle East, you're not going to understand unless you understand the roots of it. You have to understand that Paras, Persia, that we see today, is Iran. That's what they call themselves, which actually comes from Aryan, but they're actually Persia. And Ezekiel the prophet tells us very clearly that the final battle of Gog and Magog is going to involve Paras. He used the word paras. We're seeing this today. So Persia right now, although Baruch Hashem, they're losing their grip on their proxies they've used to attack the Jewish people, but unless you understand that Iran today is actually Persia, and that Persia right now, and the leadership, not the people, most of the people are very good people. However, the leadership are a jihadi, Islamist, messianic death cult. You need to understand that in order to understand what the Jewish people are dealing with in Eretz Yisrael, and actually throughout the entire world today, because we're all being affected by this battle. My point is, my dear friends, that this battle, this skirmish that we're dealing with today is just a continuation and a conclusion and a culmination of previous battles that happened before. So let's have a look at an actual fight. There was an actual fight that appears in the parasha. And this is probably one of those famous wrestling matches. There's a lot I can say about this. One of the original wrestling matches we see in history, and it's between Yaakov Avinu and the Sar, the angel that represents Esav. This is the battle, the wrestling match that we see. Somehow, whether it's a physical battle or a spiritual battle, it's probably a little bit of both, but there's a battle that occurs in the parasha. And this battle between Yaakov Avinu when he's alone, right? And remember, he's Yaakov at this point. He's not Yisrael, he's Yaakov. It's Yaakov who's fighting over here in order to absolutely claim without a shadow of a doubt that the brachot that he received from his father Yitzchak were actually meant to be his. So this fight occurs, and during this fight we know that he gets injured, but he was able to trap the angel of Esav in order to make him verify and validate the brachot that he received from Yitzchak. Let's have a look at the wording, because now we're going to see the transition, at least according to the angel. Eventually Hashem's going to have to validate this transition, right? It gets a rubber stamp from the angel, but eventually it gets signed into law from Hashem himself. And that is, Yaakov says, you know what, give me a bracha. And that's what he demands of this particular angel. By the way, who says you're allowed to get a bracha from an angel? Where does such a thing occur? Are you allowed to get a bracha from an angel? Isn't that, right, transgressing something? Aren't you meant to get bracha directly from Hashem? So the answer is, actually, just as you can get a bracha from a person, you're allowed to get a bracha from an angel. And actually, we do this every single week. On Friday night, we say Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, we say Boachem V'Shalom, and we say Baruchuni. Give me a bracha. Give me a bracha. That is okay. Some people, some traditions do not say this, like, oh, how can you get a bracha from an angel? But asking a bracha from an angel, we see is not sort of a weird thing. Yaakov Avinu does it, and getting a bracha from an angel is maybe not as good as, or maybe it's greater than getting a bracha from a human. So he says, you know what? I'm going to tell you. He doesn't give him the name. I'm going to tell you what your additional name is going to be. Right now your name is Yaakov. Hashem is going to sign in to the Torah that your name is also additionally going to be Yisrael. Unlike Avram, who becomes Avraham and never Avram again. Unlike Sarai, who is Sarai and then has the Hey replace the Yud and becomes Sarah forever, and never to be Sarai, never to be Avram. That's like Hoshea becomes Yehoshua and never Hoshea. Here it's an addition. So we have two names which represent two levels. Yaakov, which is the more earthly, physical nature of Yaakov Avinu, and Yisrael, which is the higher level, the more spiritual. And sometimes he goes back to being Yaakov because he needs that force in his life and the people he's dealing with. And sometimes he becomes Yisrael. But there is a movement from Yaakov to Yisrael again and again in the Torah. We still refer to him as Yaakov, which is a slightly lower level. What is Yisrael? So the word Yisrael actually appears in the Torah. Vayomer lo Yaakov yama od shemcha. He says, no longer is your name only going to be Yaakov. Ki im Yisrael, says the angel. Your name is going to be Yisrael. Why? What is the name Yisrael? Ki sarita im Elohim v'manashim v'tuchal. Elohim over here means angels. Okay, Elohim in this context refers to powers. Powers behind powers. When we refer to Hashem, it's Elokim, unless we're saying the entire pasuk or in a tefillah, because Elokim is plural, but it means why is Hashem's name plural? Because it means Hashem is the power behind all powers. That's why you can have the pluralization. Over here, the powers are being referred to as angels. So Yisrael has a number of connotations, which the angel says. And the main one in the pasuk, where people overlook this, ki sarita, sar. Sar is in the word Yisrael. Sar means someone who has tremendous power. It denotes a level of leadership and ownership and control. Sarita means you battled with, but because of this battle that Yaakov took upon himself, he was given a higher level of Yisrael. From here, the rabbis learned something very important, and that is that we, the Jewish people, have the ability to rise above the Malachim and have a direct connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that comes through Yisrael. Being Bnei Yisrael, we're not Bnei Yaakov, we're Bnei Yisrael. That's how we are referred to. We are the children of Yisrael. Sar, we are Lemala min HaMazalot. We have the power to overcome. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Ramchal, operates in this world via Malachim, angels, emissaries. Right? He allows things to happen and uses various channels and funnels to allow his decisions, his midot, to permeate and to affect this world. This applies to 70 nations. The 70 nations that exist in this world receive their job, their power, their tafkidim through Malachim, just like Esav in the parsha is being represented by this Malach, right? He's the leader of Esav, whatever that means. But we, however, are told that we don't deal with this. And this is very similar to the message that Yaakov's grandfather Abraham revealed. Abraham was told that Abraham would not have a kid, but Abraham would. Why? Because we are above the mazalot, we're above the astrological, astronomical forces that are Kodesh Baruch Hu, that God uses to run this world. When you are above something like that, you're not directly influenced. If you want to be influenced by them, you can be, but you don't want to be. Who wants to be led by the vice president? Right? No one wants that. Right? You want to be driven and led by the leader. And so too, Kiviyachol, we want to be led by Kodesh Baruch Hu. So we have a direct channel directly to Hashem, and Hashem gives a very special direct pipe that channels in to Am Yisrael and Klal Yisrael if we allow that to happen. If we don't have that level of emunah, Hashem says, no problem. You don't want to be judged and ruled by me, then I'll let you go through the angels. And that, of course, is a double-edged sword. It could be they're merciful, but it could be they're not. It could be you have to fight a lot more to overcome them. We don't want to fight as Yaakov. We want to fight as Bnei Yisrael. That's where we want to be, and that's precisely where we are. And so by having emunah, by having faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we now are not just saying, oh, we believe in God. I mean, that's all well and good. We're saying we're part of Bnei Yisrael, which means we are part of that level of Yaakov that had a much higher level above the mazlot, above the astrological influences, and we have a direct connection to Hashem. And that means that if there's a challenge or a problem, we don't pray to Malachim. We never do that. We can ask the Malach for a bracha if you want. That's all well and good. But you want to talk directly to Hashem to help us overcome the descendants of Esav. That's what Yaakov was doing. He was allowing his descendants to overcome the descendants of Esav by having a direct channel and funnel straight upwards, I should say, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the tradition that was given to us. That is the power that we have when we directly connect to Hashem through our tefillah, by praying to Hashem, any form of tefillah, right? El Narafanallah. Hashem, please help me. I have this job interview. I have this challenge in my life. I need a shidduch. I need parnasa, whatever it is. Hashem's like, you want to believe in me? Great. You're going to deal with me. And Hashem is Koneh HaKol. He owns everything. There's no intermediary. Right? We say it every single day in the Amidah. He's koneh hakol. He has it all. If he has it all, and we're dealing directly with him, there's a much higher chance we're going to get, just like in a bank. You go to the bank for a loan, you can talk to one of the people behind the counter. You may get a loan for $100, $200, access your account. You don't want that. You want the $2-3 million loan to help you achieve great things. To that, you got to go to the bank manager. Kivyachol, that's us talking directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is the power of Yisrael. Have a great, successful day.